knew instantly when I saw those two green rubber gloves. Number one, I should not have opened the door. Number two, my life was in grave danger.
The video you just saw was that of an elderly woman recounting her surviving a serial killer. A serial killer that, honestly, none of us knew was out there. And he would instantly become one of the most prolific serial killers in recent memory. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of Billy Chemirmir. Viewer discretion is advised. Billy Chemirmir was born on December 8th, 1972, and he lived in Eldama Ravine, which is in Kenya, and his father apparently was a farmer and also a village chief. Apparently, Billy was one of 28 children. But, other than the amount of kids, his upbringing was rather quite normal, plain, boring, I guess you could say. His parents were very loving, they were nurturing, they took good care of him. There was no abuse going on. They just were a perfectly normal, happy family. According to Billy, he also did very, very well in school, especially in math. He got good grades. Later on in life, when his dad was nearing the age of 100, he became basically his father's caretaker, and he realized that that's something he absolutely loved to do, taking care of people, especially elderly people who need the help. After his father passed away, at some point in 2003, Billy would move from Kenya all the way to the States. Specifically, he would move to the Dallas, Texas area. Initially, when he moved here, he got himself a job as a car salesman, and he did that for a little while. But then eventually, he would get a job at a caretaking facility. He became a senior caregiver. When he first started doing the caregiver stuff, he was doing it through like an agency, but then eventually he decided he wanted to take on clients on his own. So he started doing it kind of just sort of individually and separately. And he would charge like low hourly rates for his services. One of his early clients that he took on his own was Jack and Carolyn McPhee. They were an elderly couple, of course. Billy was, by all accounts, very, very friendly with them. He got to know them really well. He worked with them for, a little bit of time, to the point where they almost would say kind of like he's part of the family-ish, sort of. Sadly, Jack McPhee, he passed away in April of 2017. Then, in December of 2017, Carolyn sadly passed away. The McPhee children, after their parents both had passed, they noticed something kind of strange on a desk near where their mom, Carolyn, was found dead, on her bed. And it was ruled that she died of natural causes. But on the desk, they found like her glasses were broken and they had like a little bit of blood on them. So they thought it was kind of weird, but they didn't really know why, because there wasn't really blood anywhere else. They also noticed that some of her prized jewelry pieces were missing, and no one seemed to know where they went. So they just assumed they were stolen by someone. The kids kind of shared their concerns with Billy, almost as if almost like accusatory of like, did you steal the stuff? He responded with, there's actually much more valuable stuff in this house that I would have taken first rather than some jewelry. So no, I didn't take any of it. But anyway, both Jack and Carolyn's death, like I said, would be ruled as natural causes. Basically, just they had a heart attack while they slept. Police did look into the jewelry, though, and they looked into Billy a little bit, and they noticed that he had previously served a 70-day sentence at the Dallas County Jail back in 2016. This was because he trespassed onto certain properties. These properties just so happened to be elderly care facilities or retirement homes, specifically the Edgemere Community Center. So let's fast forward now to March 18th, 2018. 91-year-old Mary Bartell was a mother of 6 children. She had grandkids. She had great-grandkids. She was a wonderful, amazing mom, and she loved and adored all of her grandkids. Now, she was living at Preston Place Community Center, another basically retirement old folks home. And she was doing really well for herself. She was still very healthy. She was able to do everything on her own. She could still drive, and, so she didn't really need a whole lot of extra care. Well, on that day, on March 18th, 2018, a man knocked on her door. She peered out the peephole, and she saw someone wearing really big green latex gloves on their hands. He said something about he worked at the community center. He was a caretaker there, and he needed to check on her as part of his job. So she kind of hesitantly opened the door. And at that point, she said that the man said to her, he said, "Don't fight me, and just get in the bed. Go lay in the bed." And she said she was so immediately frazzled that she just didn't get a good look at the guy. All she could see were the green gloves. But she did, as he demanded, she got on the bed and she laid down. And then next thing she knows, there's a pillow being thrusted into her face. And she is he's attempting to suffocate her. And she eventually does black out. And the man, assumedly, thinks that she has died. When she, actually she didn't come to until a friend found her in the apartment an hour or two later, and called 911, brought her to the hospital, and she was going to be okay. So she survived this attack. She, again, couldn't really recount exactly what the man looked like, other than the green gloves. That's all she really knew. But there was jewelry that was stolen from the apartment. So obviously this was probably the motive, was robbery. Police suspected this was probably not the first attack, and they very, very quickly learned that it certainly was not. The police were informed that literally the day prior, Mary's next door neighbor was found dead in her apartment. The neighbor, her cause of death was ruled as natural, a heart attack. Again, she was an elderly woman. As a matter of fact, over the past 6 months, there had been 7 elderly women who died at this facility. All ruled natural causes, died of a heart attack. Every single one of those apartments where the women were found dead also all had missing jewelry. Shortly before the attack on Mary, another neighbor had noticed that there was a car in the parking lot kind of driving around that they did not recognize, and they just felt that this car was not where it was supposed to be. And it was a silver Nissan Altima. And this neighbor just so happened to write down the license plate because the neighbor felt it was off. And thankfully, they did that. So after Mary's attack, that neighbor gave the license plate information to the police, just thinking, hey, maybe it's something, maybe it's not, just, maybe want to look into it. So police did. The car belonged to a man named Billy Chemirmir. And again, they noticed that he had previous convictions for trespassing. He had also used fake names and pretended to be an employee of certain care facilities in order to get into those facilities. And again, this was at the Edgemere Community Center. Police looked even further. They were told that there were 3 elderly women who had died at the Edgemere complex. Again, all elderly women, all died of natural causes, possibly a heart attack, and all of them had jewelry stolen from their apartments. So, police, they find out where Billy lives. He lives at this apartment complex, nothing out of the ordinary. And one day they see that he drives up to a dumpster, and then he is seen throwing something into that dumpster. Police go to check on what it is, and it is a jewelry box. And on that jewelry box, there is a name. And the name on it was Luthi Harris. They also found a set of keys, car keys, apartment keys. They would find out those keys also belonged to Luthi Harris. Now, police were in the process of basically arresting Billy on suspicion of robbery. And so at the same time, they are checking the home of Luthi Harris, and they use the keys. They're able to get inside because no one answers when they knock on the door. When they go inside, they find the body of Luthi Harris. She is also apparently have died of natural causes. And the coroner would say that. Natural causes, heart attack. Well, this is getting kind of weird though, right? A whole bunch of elderly women are dying of natural causes, seemingly, but all their jewelry is being stolen. That's a little weird. A week or so prior, in the same apartment complex that Miss Bartell was living in, where she was attacked and survived, another woman was found in her apartment. Her name was Martha Williams. Again, natural causes. Her kids are cleaning out her apartment, and they noticed something very concerning. Something I guess police did not notice when they searched the apartment. On one of her pillows, the one of the daughters flipped it over, and there was like a face impression in blood. Like it looked like someone had pressed a pillow against someone's face, and they were bleeding, and it left an imprint of their face. So obviously something is wrong here. Something is off. Police then get access to Billy's cell phone records, and they notice that basically whenever one of these elderly women had died, his cell phone pinged off the cell tower that would be where those apartment complexes were. So he was literally on site of every single one of these deaths of these elderly women. Between 2016 and 2018, they would determine that about 24 elderly women had died of seemingly natural causes, but also all had their jewelry stolen. 8 women had died at a facility called The Tradition, and again, elderly women, and they were Joyce Abramowitz, Juanita Purdy, Leah Corkin, Margaret White, the only man in this case, Solomon Spring, Norma French, Helena Day, and Doris Gleason. And then there were 7 women at the Preston place. Minnie Campbell, Diana Delahunty, Mammy Del Maya. One of the women was only listed as a Jane Doe, Martha Williams, Miriam Nelson, and Anne Conklin. Then there were other women who died either at other facilities or they died in an apartment or home that they owned on their own. And they were Phyllis Payne, Phoebe Perry, Carolyn McPhee, Rosemary Curtis, Mary Brooks, and Luthi Harris. Now that's 21 women. I don't know the identities of the other 3, if they have been totally confirmed to be linked to the same one or not. But they did say there were at least 24 women. There possibly could even be more, but this is what they got right now. So, they were able to look at a lot of the autopsy reports of all of these women. And it would basically, all of the causes of death for these particular women were all changed from natural causes to homicide via suffocation or asphyxiation. I guess they could determine that they were in fact probably suffocated or had something pressed over their face to kill them. Can they say that definitively? I'm not sure, but they did. They changed the causes of death. So police discovered that Billy had sold a whole bunch of jewelry items either online to random people, or he sold them at like those gold and silver places where like, we buy gold, those places. And he would usually do this. They were able to line it up with the days that these women died. He would sell their jewelry basically right away. But most of the items, unfortunately, have never been recovered because either they were then resold or these like silver and gold places had melted them down, which is something they do. I believe police were able to obtain some kind of confirmation that Billy had been at these facilities to sell stuff, but I don't know if they actually have footage of it or not, but they were able to confirm he was there. So they also found CCTV footage of him in the vicinity or following Luthi Harris on the day she died. So this is the CCTV footage that they had. So it appears that he had followed her into the Walmart, and then later he leaves the Walmart, and then she quickly leaves the store right after him. They then obtained footage from the parking lot and noticed that Lou Thie, she pulls out first, and then Billy pulls out next and appears to be following her, but they don't have footage that or any confirmation that the two of them ever interacted at all, and they can't confirm for 100% certainty that he followed her all the way to her home. So, of course, Billy Chemirmir denies all of this ever happened. He said he's not guilty. He didn't do anything. He said the jewelry box that he threw in the dumpster, he had purchased from another person for $700, and he also bought this set of keys for some reason. I'm sorry, but why would you buy a random set of keys for someone's car and house that you don't even know where it goes to? And then why would you buy the jewelry box and then just throw it away? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Police also found a whole bunch of rare $2 bills in Billy's possession. One of the elderly women was missing a whole bunch of $2 bills because she would give those out to her grandkids, I think once a year for like birthday or Christmas or something. Billy said, "Oh yeah, I got those from a random guy in Fort Worth, Texas. I don't know who he is or I can't remember what he looks like, but that's where I got him from. I paid for him."
Yeah, that's the reason you pushed me down to the ground. What you done, lawyer? For something I did not do.
We know where you were. I just want to know from you.
I'll tell you where I was.
He told me that he had met someone and bought the jewelry box. And then when he got to his place, he didn't want it, so he threw it away into the dumpster.
Okay, now if you sell it for $3, a $2 bill for $3, what is he selling it to you for?
$250.
Did you talk to any of the elderly people on the property on Thursday, March 15th?
No, I didn't.
So in terms of the potential string of homicides that he may now be guilty of or being charged with, he says, "I am not a killer." He said he thinks the medical examiner was pressured by politicians and by the families to change the causes of death of all these elderly women so that they could get someone for it. And you know what? I'm not going to necessarily say that that's something that hasn't happened before, because let's be real, it has happened before. So in the interest of fairness, that theory is certainly possible. We go on to say, quote, let me read this. "I am not at all what the police are saying I am. I am a very innocent person. I was not brought up that way. I was brought up in a good family. I didn't have any problems all of my life." Usually serial killers have a very rough upbringing, but not all of them do. But it's consistent that they do. But that being said, he was charged with 18 counts of capital murder. Again, I don't know why he wasn't charged with the rest, but 18 counts of capital murder is a whole lot. To which Billy responded with, quote, "I'm 100% sure I will not go to prison. I will be acquitted of all 18 charges." So, he would first go on trial for the murder of Lou Thie Harris, and that trial ended in a mistrial in November. And then he would be retried again for the same murder, and then this time he was found guilty. And he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Next, he went on trial for the murder of 88-year-old Mary Brooks, and once again, he was found guilty, and he was sentenced to another life sentence without parole. And that's it. So no, they will not be going to trial for every single case. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, they are planning to basically dismiss the remainder of the charges. The reason why they said they went for two separate trials, is because just in case one of them somehow gets overturned, he still has another life sentence without parole. The families are also free to file wrongful death suits against him, and several of them have. But all of that is actually still pretty fresh and still currently happening, so I don't really have an update on any of that. And I think some of the families also have filed lawsuits against the care facilities where these elderly women were living due to obvious lack of security. So again, that's a still ongoing thing, because this literally all just happened. So it's very fresh, just in the past couple of years. So Now, Billy says he already plans to appeal, one on the basis that he got inadequate defense. Apparently, the defense called very few witnesses, and they didn't really object to much, according to Billy. He also states there were issues with the testimony of Mary Bartell. And by the way, unfortunately, the surviving victim, Mary, she would end up passing away several months later of actual natural causes. Her family said like the stress of all of this probably really got to her, unfortunately, and she passed away. But she did manage to record in a deposition. They recorded her entire testimony. So this is some of that testimony that she gave.
I knew instantly when I saw those 2 green rubber gloves. Number 1, I should not have opened the door. Number 2, my life was in grave danger. He said, "Don't fight me, lie on the bed." So I did as he said. He just smashed a pillow down hard over my face and my chest, and I just couldn't breathe.
She would say that one of the only things, like I said earlier, that she could focus on were green gloves. Billy had said basically had said in an interview after his convictions, well, that's interesting because they never found any green gloves anywhere in my home, my car. They only ever found blue latex gloves. They never found a pair of green ones, which, again, based on the testimony, is a valid reason for appeal. But that doesn't mean he didn't own a pair of green gloves and he just used those gloves for that one crime, His defense never argued it, though. They never even brought it up, the green and blue gloves, during his initial trials. Guilty or not, he does deserve a fair trial. So I just hope that he got a fair trial because that's just how we operate. You're supposed to get the best service, basically. That being said, the CCTV footage of him following Luthi and pulling out of the parking lot when she did, the fact that he pawned off a whole bunch of jewelry, the fact that he had Luthi's jewelry box and then just chucked it. He had all of these items on his persons about these women who were robbed. Like, I don't buy that he bought those items off some guy, with the jewelry box, because it all would have happened in a matter of less than a day for that to have occurred. So it just seems really weird. And again, why would you buy a set of keys that you don't even know where they go? Why? For $700? Come on. It just doesn't make any sense to me. He had been convicted of trespassing at the same facilities where women had been killed. So, there's proof that he's been there. So, you have at least 21 confirmed identities of people, of these women that were killed. All died the exact same way. All of them had their jewelry stolen. A lot of that jewelry was either found in his possession or found that he had sold those items. If I'm on a jury and I'm looking at reasonable doubt, for me, I feel like there isn't any reasonable doubt. I feel like there is enough to say, yeah, he's guilty. Because otherwise, you're throwing in the possibility of so much coincidence going on. So we have a guy who's robbing these women, and then someone else is coming in and killing them. It just... So yeah, we had a serial killer in our country, in Texas, killing well over 20 women, and none of us knew it was happening. And that's really scary because, there are lots of senior care facilities in this country all over the place. And it's really, really terrifying how easy it was for this man to do that without anyone suspecting a thing. Because again, they're elderly, natural causes. They had a heart attack. It's just the way of life. So it's unsuspecting. And that's terrifying, especially to those of you out there who may have family members in elderly homes as we speak. So just check in on them all the time, make sure they're doing okay. But But just like that, a man by the name of Billy Chemirmir from Kenya rises up the ranks as one of the most notorious serial killers in our country. And we had no idea. But that is the end of this case. So I hope you found it interesting. If you want to see much shorter content from me with a whole bunch of other cases, well over 2,000, you can head on over to my TikTok, which is also Making a True Crimerer. I'm not really posting on there consistently anymore. This is now my main platform here. I will be posting 3-minute videos on this channel every day that I don't post a long video, so look out for those. But I do have a lot more over on TikTok. So go ahead and give me a follow if you like, because I'll still use it from time to time. Secondly, if you have a case you would like me to cover, please email me at mikey@truecrimerer.com. You can find that in the description below, but please first go to my link tree, also in the description below. Go to the case list, scroll through the list, search through the list, and then look for the name you want me to cover. If you don't see it, then email me just the name, when it happened, where it happened. If you already see the name on the list, please do not email me. I'm inundated with emails, and I can't keep up with them half the time, so yeah. Lastly, if you want to support me in any way, we do sell merch. We sell t-shirts. We have really comfortable hoodies. We have a few different options for hoodies. It's cold season, so go ahead and snatch one up. Ew. We also sell wine glasses and mugs and other things. We now sell Christmas ornaments for your Christmas tree, so get them while they're hot. We sold a lot of them last year, so yeah. All right, that's also in the link tree below. All right, true crimerers, that is it for this one. As always, true crimerers.